we're focused on housing. And on today's webinar, we're going to talk about design trends, specifically about not trying to track them, because as a wise admiral once said, it's a trap. Instead, let's stop following and start leading by putting user experience at the center of the design process. Companies that dominate user experience outperform the market by threefold. Now, we're going to unveil a comprehensive framework for designing homes that anticipate and delight, making your projects more desirable, resilient, and future ready. Now, I say we, but I really mean Sam Rashkin. He's considered the father of such wonderful programs as the Energy Star and Zero Energy Ready Home program. Sam is also the creator and teacher of the Housing 2.0 content, which is based largely on Sam's latest book, Housing 2.0 Disruption Survival Guide. The full program was established to help empower you, our building professionals, to design and construct higher performance, healthier, more sustainable homes at a fraction of the cost. Sam's going to lead today's seminar and also address your questions at the end. Now, sandwiched in this intro is some information about our main sponsor. Panasonic Healthy Indoor Living Solutions is helping builders across the country differentiate themselves with powerful, code-compliant, and cost-effective indoor air quality solutions that provide a safer environment for home buyers. Now, during the course of today's presentation, you can submit questions for Sam. Simply use the Q&A function located in the menu bar at the bottom of the Zoom window. I'll review those questions and pose them to Sam after his presentation. Sam, take it away.
Hey, thank you so much, Mike, and welcome to everyone. Like Mike, I'm incredibly grateful to our sponsor, Panasonic, so we can bring you today the seminar on homebuyer expectations, all the uncertainty surrounding that. And I'm a recovering architect, so design matters. And, with all the work we've done with above code certification programs, Energy Star, Zero Ready, it always is so important to me to make sure we don't lose track of why people buy homes in the first place. How they live is critical. So we're going to talk today about how we meet buyers where they are. And if you attach this to what you do with high performance, you'll be an industry leader. So let's start by telling you this is the last seminar in the Managing Uncertainty series for 2025. This year, we've been attacking high performance home certification uncertainty and the likely changes and how to adapt. We looked at housing affordability, including 6 pillars for how you can tremendously address affordability challenges. We looked at housing workforce and survival strategies for a tremendously shrinking trade base that's out in the marketplace. And then last week, we looked at home buyer sales and 10 science-based strategies for translating value. So today we move into homebuyer expectations. And what we will cover is, again, the usual Housing 2.0 background. We'll look at the housing user experience optimization imperative. We'll look at the UX optimization by design solutions you can deploy, and then discussion with any questions you may have. So that's kind of the usual agenda. Let's jump right in with the background for Housing 2.0. And I always start with just making sure we realize how important the work we do is for any professional involved in housing. The research data tells us that where we spend time each day is dominated by the time we spend in our homes, nearly 70% compared to time at work, other indoor locations, vehicle, outdoors, in our cars. So this is where we spend our time. Home is where life happens. And it happens more and more as we see some trends towards increasing telework, even with some reduction following the COVID virus stretch we went through. So why do we do Housing 2.0? The reason we exist is homes where life happens better. What we do is we recognize that performance is a must-have, but it's only part of a series of requirements for optimizing the user experience in housing. In fact, we also have to optimize community, design, quality, and sales to deliver a better user experience. And the focus of this whole set of fundamentals is how to get there at lower cost. What we do specifically to get at lower cost is we first look at the community user experience, and we have 3 strategies and 24 best practices. Then we look at design with 5 strategies and 60 best practices. performance with 5 strategies and 48 best practices, quality with 4 strategies and 24 best practices, and finally sales with 3 strategies and 20 best practices. And again, a framework is a consistent process to get a desired outcome. In this case, better homes at lower cost. And if all you're focused on is performance, there's a huge lost opportunity to really take it so much further. And how we do this is basically moving from a first cost business model to a housing 2.0 business model focused on user experience. So in the housing 2.0 business model, we're going to invest more in user experiences that we know virtually are a sure thing. They're all, in fact, often transformative. So we make those investments. So we're spending more there with experts and special features that get us that experience. But we use these 6 strategies for cost optimization to result in significant cost savings with all this value, both in terms of the user experience and lower ownership cost. The net is basically tens of thousands of dollars of cost advantage available with this new business model. And so the resource for doing this is Housing 2.0, a Disruption Survival Guide. It's loaded with content and graphics and extensive citations. Some of my favorite expert friends contributed essays that really help the narrative. But the goal is just to help high performance professionals be the industry leaders. So let's start right with the first look at the housing user experience optimization imperative. And that begins with the recognition that housing is the ultimate consumer product. There's just no other purchase we make in our lifetime that's close to use, size, cost, emotion, impact, aspirations, financial obligation over time, and a transaction burden. This is one you want to get right. And so this is like so important why user experience really makes a difference in housing. And the other realization we have to also understand is that our home buyers are exponentially more informed than they used to be. 95% of the consumers are using the internet to search for homes, and now they're going to AI and doing searches and chat GPT and other queries to really find out more and more insights before they come to buy from you. Now, the other issue I think you have to recognize, because they're more informed, is consumers more and more look to reviews for any purchase made. Millions of purchase decisions every day are made with 5-star ratings. And the research will suggest you need a 3.4-star rating as kind of the lowest you should be for consideration by a consumer to engage with you as a business. I know personally, even when my wife and I travel, we won't consider restaurants and hotels that are less than 4 stars. So this seems even a little bit low to me, but this is a benchmark. And then when I go to what I think is, for me, one of my most reliable peer-reviewed sites for housing consumer affairs, I'll go and put on a spreadsheet all the reviews for all the production builders that are rated. And the latest time I did this last year, the average score, number of stars for the builders, about 120 different builders, was less than 2 stars. So we have a gap problem between consumer expectation and the user experience ratings that they're getting. So this is a real significant challenge for the industry. And my key message to my friends who are sustainability builders and architects and program managers is that I always want to recognize that zero and sustainability are a must-have, but they're not enough. Zero energy is great, but you have to deliver a growing number of expectations: health, open space, daylight, fresh air, outdoor living, storage, smart, work at home, fitness at home, advanced lighting, color. They're just growing number of expectations. So we have to be really diligent in the sustainability space to really recognize the importance of design and not shortcut it, but in fact enhance it. So let's jump in by looking at how we can optimize the user experience by design. So it begins first by sharing with you kind of the bottom line um, details about the framework in Housing 2.0. In community design, we talk about how important it is and why it's so important because place matters. You know, your connection, your environment, your investment, and what we do to address that why is we optimize interaction, availability for the amount each homeowner wants. We optimize appearance of the community. We optimize persistence of its value. And the strategies that we present in Housing 2.0 are open spaces, quality features, and strategies for ensuring value over time, and that these communities really perform well as an investment strategy. And the key thing that I always address in Housing 2.0 is that a lot of the value that results from doing all that optimization is hidden. So for instance, if we follow a lot of the best practices with optimizing community design, we'll wind up with lower costs because we have free heating and cooling. If we do sharing sheds, we don't have to buy as many things. And if we do other measures for connection, we have social connection and open space and farm to table food, which all add wellness. And then we get on top of that added future value, that enduring value goal with open spaces are tremendously significant, correlating to increased value. Homeowner association maintenance and good governance programs help ensure neighborhoods are maintained and therefore have higher desirability. South orientation is a much more desirable feature that adds value, tree-lined streets, optimized views, optimized town centers, landscaping, quality features, and amenities. All these things are significant. And we go through the research and results in the longer workshops on each of these user experiences like community. So zero is a wrong number. And so often that's the number we attribute when we start planning and designing communities. And the numbers that we show in Housing 2.0 show a wide range in tens of thousands of dollars of value that these each represent. And so for a real conservative estimate, this is about 100 to 200,000 cost advantage just for optimizing community. That's so significant. Same thing with design. And when it comes to design the home, space matters. And not just the home itself, the outdoor property. We bought a piece of land. Shouldn't that land deliver value, not just the house? Shouldn't the property give you the most value it can than the home itself, inside and the details? And what we do to help you get an optimized home design is we optimize location, we optimize nature, optimize space, optimize form, and optimize function. And the strategies to do those are fit to site, natural comfort, right sizing, simple integrated systems. Many of you may recognize this from the workshops, but the key point is the outcomes are so impressive. We lower the cost of construction with right sizing, with simple, with mass customization and integrated systems, significantly lower the cost. And we lower ownership costs with significant utility bill savings and reduced maintenance. And we add all this value with increasing wellness, with social connection, outdoor living, views in daylight, natural comfort and fresh air, and clutter-free living. And then we increase future value with timeless designs and durable materials. So again, thousands of dollars of value are hidden, but add up to a huge number. Again, $100,000 to $200,000 cost advantage, conservatively taking portions of each of these, assuming that they all don't apply. So, this is what we want to make sure we do is we demonstrate that we are delivering and exceeding expectations consumers have. Okay, so what are the 6 strategies for how we do that? Well, first we go from excessive waste to optimize lean. We go from excessive complexity to optimize simple. We go from excessive systems as an afterthought to optimize systems integration. We go from excessive quality assurance expenses for customer service and warranty to optimize quality. We go from excessive customization to mass customization and excessive time and process to optimize productivity. We're rigorously integrating all 6 optimization strategies all across the planning and designing of projects. And that's what I'm going to show you how we do that today with key examples of how this applies, and the outcome is optimized user experience. Homes that cost less to own, live better, live healthier, protect better, and last better. So let's begin going through uh, these really important examples where by design, we can leverage all this cost advantage. Let's start with open space. And let's just suggest that these kinds of massive tract developments we do uh, with completely inadequate open space are really suboptimized. We're almost warehousing people rather than creating lives that happen special. And let me give you an example where just open space can be transformative. And this will be a very highly urban example in New York City. This red line shows you something, shows you the elevated tracks that used to run from the Hudson Yards near Penn Station to the meatpacking district in New York City. And this is, in the early part of the 20th century. That's how we would get a lot of goods across to the lower part of Manhattan. And of course, over time, those weren't needed, but you had this big elevated track for the freight trains to go back and forth. The subway system for passengers was a separate system. So over time, it was no longer used, and then it just became a decaying infrastructure piece just sitting in New York City. So it just sat there, and it became more and more decayed and just an eyesore for people who lived adjacent to it. And so it became a liability. All these elevated tracks just were an eyesore. And then it became this, the High Line. The vision to convert this to this was to say, this liability is in fact an incredible open space opportunity above all the traffic and truck, uh, all the truck and car traffic below, and with so much less noise. It's an amazing piece of open space we can basically take just by using the assets that's there. So that if you go visit the High Line, New York, it will blow your mind just how it's beautiful it is. It just gives you a view of Manhattan that's enhanced by being above grade. It has beautiful designs. In sections, they'll leave the old tracks as an aesthetic feature that's beautiful. Great hardscaping, great landscaping. It's just astounding how special open space it is. And the project cost was about $273 million. It avoided tens of millions of dollars of demolition cost. Okay, so that was just a cost savings by leveraging the asset. It's generated billions of dollars of economic development activity, and just the renovations of Hudson Yards alone is like $6-7 billion going there. And it's so far projected to deliver $1 billion in New York City tax revenues over the next 20 years. What an amazing investment to provide open space. And everyone in New York gets an opportunity to live better. This is the kind of things we can do with open space. It's like, oh my God, what do we do? Do we give up space? That could be another house that we can sell and just keep getting as many people buying homes crammed together. When we realize the long-term value is better for business and all the time. So here's an example where we just have no regard for optimizing user experience. The traditional strip shopping center is bad by design. It's just loaded with cars in front. It's unattractive. The stores have less value. It's the least desirable shopping. And it's because this design where you have a big parking lot in front of stores. Ultimately, at no extra cost, we could put the parking in the rear and put the stores up to the front if it's a pedestrian-friendly street. So now you create this kind of experience. With the parking in the rear, you create this beautiful shopping pedestrian environment. Here's an actual example, Marie Shoals in Oregon, parking's in the rear, in pockets, and then you have a streetscape like this instead. So desirable, again, that restaurants actually can have outdoor seating, which you wouldn't want to have in a strip shopping parking lot. It's got landscaping, it's got hardscaping that increase the value, the rents, and the tax revenue for the city by not, by skimping on all this outdoor design, we give up such a huge amount of revenue over time and value for the owners and reputation for us as developers and builders. Here's another concept by Gensler for how to do strip shopping. That's good design. Again, just it's the same thing, create the pedestrian flow that's away from the traffic, away from the parking, and just like a 5x greater value for all the spaces over time. Okay, parks, again, do we leave open space for parks? Do we not leave open space? Do we give up the land? You just all you need to do is go back to one of the very first developments in the country from the Revolutionary era, Savannah, Georgia. And on the right, you see an aerial shot showing all the pocket parks and the big parks that were integrated into the community. Incredible community planning back in the 1780s. The vision to say, let's leave these pockets of parks. Every nth block, I think it was 7th or 8th block, there was a park. And this is what they look like today. The additional value by having the insight to leave open space is just epic. And even the smaller pocket parks that just have less trees, but are so much add so much value to the neighborhood and all the adjoining properties right next to it and close to it. Having these parks is a massive advantage for Savannah. So much so that they have 45% greater value for the property sold in the historic district than the homes in the larger city. So it's just, these are decisions that if we don't make at the initial planning for the community, will be locked in perpetuity, sub-optimized. So important to get this right. And the other part of optimizing community by design is the ability to create connection by design. Front porches are a great way to do that. Putting parking in the rear. There's just an amazing number of things that create community connection, interest in walking in the neighborhood streets. And the research will show that the social connectiveness created contributes to disease prevention, lower rates of anxiety, stronger immune systems, improved cognitive function. It's just a direct correlation. And the other part about community connection is another study found a 50% better chance of staying healthy and increased longevity with connection. And that looked at over 300,000 participants in that study to make these research findings. So community connection is just huge. And you can just see in this picture again, this is the street you want to walk down. So we want to go from communities are building like on the left that are garage dominated to ones where you actually create a neighborhood community connection and ambiance for walking and landscaping. These investments are just off the charts in the return they provide. So let me give an example how I personally will have worked with clients. This is one builder I've worked with where here's a project in incredibly busy streets, both on the one on the right and the low one on the bottom of very busy streets. And they can cram in these townhouse units, basically, or apartment units, 4 rows of 10 units each. So you have 40 units, and they'll sell at market value. 50% of the units will have a view to this one central space, which is not reason that doesn't look like it has significant landscaping. And 50% of these homes, so 50% of the homes will also have a little bit of connection, but these outer blocks will be completely bifurcated by the parking alleys. They won't have visual connection to that little open space in the middle. And also this entire row here and all these units on the bottom, 33% of the units are right adjoining the busy street with the noise and so forth. So that was the original design. The recommended fix that I gave to them was, why don't we just create this central space that creates total community connection? So go from 50 to 100% connection, 50% to 100% with views to this beautiful courtyard space, and invest in landscaping it. And now only have 5% of the units near the busy street, these 2 in the end. Now we have this buffer in the bottom with these units away from the busy street. And that's a garage side anyway. And And it's just in every way better community design. You give up 2 units, you go from 40 to 2, but you have I believe, a substantial increased market value that will generate even more revenue with less units and a greater reputation for the developer. So it's a choice between having this as a dominant experience on the left, or this as a dominant experience on the right. And you tell me how much more value would you pay for a project on the right versus the left, where that's the dominant experience. I mean, this is common sense for all of us, and so we just have to start figuring how do we apply common sense to be more successful. Okay, next optimization by design topic we want to talk about is views. Views are crazy important. So I'll give you an example that's an extreme example. If I have a big apartment or a condo unit on the ocean, like here, and again, often the lots only allow a narrow profile. I have half the units facing the ocean, the other half facing a busy street, looking at the apartments and the cars and the traffic noise. So I have half with a great view, but I have half with a bad view. So is there a solution if I'm focused on optimizing views by design that I can do better? And so this is the current layout of this unit. We have apartments on the back facing the street and the apartments facing the ocean. So a way to flip from this double loaded corridor design with 50% of the ocean, 50% of the street is to go with a 2-story design. We have a step design here and then 1-story apartments here. So every apartment faces the ocean, 100% with an ocean view. And the way you do that is you have your first 1-story apartments facing the ocean. Off the corridor, you go into these 2-story apartments on their first floor, and on the second floor, they go all the way across. And now you have a full view across. Those who are architect students might see this resembles Le Corbusier's design he did in Paris for an apartment complex. But again, design can really just transform outcomes if you really work at it. And here's another example with apartments in the ocean. If you have a little more depth, you might find a U-shaped apartment building, but you have you have like 38% of the units with bad views, and then the other units facing other way can grab a view of the ocean, but are all usually looking at a building next door. In contrast, and then you have these units in front with some great views. In contrast, we get everyone with a great view just by design, by figuring out how with angles we get a incredible ability to capture views so much more effectively. So this is just the power of design, and we can take it down to a smaller design example like a townhouse, and it still works the same way. The solution will be different, but the outcome is transformative in terms of how it lives and the value of the home you're building. So this is a typical townhouse. And a typical townhouse has a very long, narrow aspect ratio, usually a small pocket yard in the back. And what that means is you have very limited views from the back to the yard. So whatever rooms off the back adjoining that yard has access, and that's it. And it's because of the long, narrow configuration, it's a small part of the floor plan. Then the second story neighbors can look into each other yard on either side of them, so you have no privacy in the yards. And you have also less linkage from the spaces inside to that space, less access to daylight, less access physically to getting to the space. And so this is just what we typically do and say, it's okay. But design can be transformed. So instead of this as your only outdoor space, which almost has no value, it's just because it's no privacy and very little access, and it's often not a valued space by the owners. And this is a picture I took of any number of townhouse projects that surround me where I live. Now, a partial solution could be just to do some expert landscape design so that what you do have is a better view for the small access point you have, but you're still left with minimal linkage because you have very few spaces adjoining it. And the access is harder, the daylight's still limited, the privacy is still not good. So what I recommend is rethinking the whole design concept. This is an L-shaped townhouse, and the yards we just get rid of and repurpose that land so we can hopefully gain the same number of units we lost. We're going from 6 to 4 with the L shape. And so that's a fair amount of land to grab 2 more units by design. But the courtyard concept works completely different. Now everything's optimized. The outdoor linkage, the access, the daylight, and the privacy. So let me show you why. First, we have a quiet side, so your neighbors can't look into your courtyard. So you have fully private outdoor space. And it's all useful space. The whole lot you paid for, now you're getting value. Then all the key rooms have access to that outdoor view. And visibly and sliding doors and French doors, you have access to your outdoor space. And you have so much more daylight coming in and you have full privacy. So you completely resolve all the design flaws with the traditional way we just assumed to build townhouses. Now, the secret sauce is to put in a center entry so you get a full room in the front. So you don't come in the front and have to walk through spaces to get to the back. And that leaves you even opportunity for a full front porch, community connection. So all these things kind of work together. So this was a concept. This was actually one of my senior year design projects in architectural school. And then I did a lot of research and found an actual project executing this. This is the Waters in Pike Road, Alabama. Architectural team came up with a really nice design, just almost exactly as I'm showing you. And so this is the project where, again, you walk into the courtyard, you have the side entry, the full front porch, full front room, all the things we talked about. Now, my big disappointment though is when I went to Zillow and grabbed some screenshots of a property for sale to get a sense of the courtyard. It's pretty disappointing. They didn't invest a lot in the architectural design to incorporate good landscaping expertise. And the courtyards look pretty basic. And let me show you by design what an expert landscaper can do. Transformative. Courtyard on the left versus courtyard on the right. And it just is there's no substitute for expert landscape design, hardscaping and landscaping and trees and shrubs and just all the outdoor living concepts. It's just so worth investing. Just think what's the value of this unit versus that unit? Okay, now moving on to outdoor living, and we're going to build in this concept about investing in landscaping and trees and hardscaping with our good friend, Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's partner, both retired right now. But Charlie Munger said it best. He said, if you spend money on trees, you get it back triple. And this is the part I love about what he says. Stinting on landscaping and hardscaping is building malpractice. Again, the loss of value and the exponential benefits over time that the greater appreciation and value contributes to is such a huge loss not to include. So I love that an incredible investment billionaire recognizes this. It just helps validate some of my preachings to the industry, and I like to have some validation. So just some of the data to back up why this all makes a difference. These are just some numbers from one study about the added value for various tree features, bordering some preserves, 20 to 35%. If you have tree cover in the lot, almost 20%. If you're adjacent to a green belt or open space, again, think back to Savannah, that's over 30%. And just if you plant trees in the neighborhood so you have good tree cover, you're automatically increasing the neighborhood's value 6 to 9%. I think even more personally. And mature trees in high income neighborhoods contribute 10 to 15% greater value. Just a huge difference. And it's such a small investment up front. And then there's the wellness benefits. Louisville, Kentucky did a project where they really did a serious amount of effort to plant trees in lower income neighborhoods. And they found 13 to 20% lower levels of general inflammation, blood marker in underserved neighborhoods with trees compared to those with no greenery. So but we can do these studies to prove the obvious. We all know just intrinsically. That green space and trees uh, and landscaping just nourish us. They just nurture our wellness. So here's some data to help back up what we know. And most importantly, it's preferred. People want outdoor living. They want outdoor views. Again, this is one study that was done a couple of years ago. Almost 90% of homeowners surveyed uh, want more outdoor living. What a shock. Here's a trend that people want outdoor living. Through Housing 2.0 and retooling the US housing industry for the past 15 years, I've been pleading with the industry to integrate more outdoor living just because we know we don't have to ask the survey questions. It's so funny that we need this to prove the obvious. So, but with that understanding, that really affects how do we optimize by design. So if we do long, narrow lots, we have a very small, again, access to the back, small daylight coming in, limited views. That just is what happens. So more and more we can build square lots, we get double the views, more daylight. And what also happens is a square shape versus a rectangular shape has about 15% less walls. And so that's about $2,000 lower cost to build. That's a cost savings to build geometrically square versus long rectangular designs. So it save about $2,000 in cost, plus more views, plus more daylight, and then about 10% lower energy savings because we have less walls that are getting heat gain and contributing to heat loss. So in every way, it's better. And if we, from a community planning perspective, start with this experience that we want to provide, we realize we can get the same number of lots by shrinking the back pocket so it's narrower but longer. Now I'll talk more later by example how even narrow yards can be beautiful. But so this is just a huge opportunity just from starting with the community planning to make sure we get right the geometry. So let me show you an example how these concepts work again on actual projects, just because I always think the actual projects just help validate some of the recommendations just conceptually. So this is another client I had. This is a duplex concept they were building where they had a garage in front and then the duplex uh, first floor and second floor built around that garage. So you have what I believe is completely wasted property. I'm paying for this yard. The only value is the living space, the duplex itself. I believe this yard will have hardly any value. I'll show you why. So the concept for me is recognizing with clients that, look, you have minimal view, access to yard functionality, outdoor linkage, daylight connection, privacy, and there's almost no place to park. This space between this garage and this garage isn't enough to park a car. So if people come visit, you're going to have long walks from some remote parking spaces that can be provided in plan. So can we do better by design and get value from the entire lot and better experiences? So this was the recommendation to the developer builder was put the garage in back and use half of the backyard for an alley for this unit and half of the backyard of the other for the alleyway to the adjoining unit on the back. So I have the garage in the back. I can now get the porch in the front. Again, think optimized connection. And I wound up with a side yard that adjoins all the major rooms for view, access, daylight, and everything else that we want to do. And here's how it works in plan. So here's existing plan with a side yard that's completely just there to provide a buffer space and probably become aesthetically challenged as it's not maintained well and the backyard will have not very much value. So I'm not optimizing the rear yard or side yard. Those are almost no value, the property itself. It's just the unit. I have minimal views. I have minimal outdoor, indoor outdoor linkage, no community connection, all garages in front. The entry is a long slog to get to the main spaces on the back of the floor plan with a lot of wasted space. Trash and cars are going to be in the front to really affect the aesthetics of the street. a pretty complex floor plan footprint with about 8 corners, no drop zone when I come in, and about a 20-foot walk to the closet when I come in every day. And if I have a wet shoes, umbrellas, whatever, that's a long way to go before I can drop. And then and the kitchen flow, this is way too tight, from the counter to the seating. And if the chairs are pulled out, this is gonna be really tight. So this is the space we had. And what I do to improve designs is first create the block spaces, and then I create a new strategy. So here's what we go. We have the alley in the back to this garage, all the trash cans in the back. We have a front porch, the great room, kitchen, dining, entry, all off the courtyard. And the back side of the plan, we have the stairs, half bath. The mechanical room that was in the second floor, I brought downstairs so a HVAC contractor can come in the garage, fix what's wrong and leave, and not in the current plan have to come in the house, go upstairs to the second floor mechanical closet. And I added a drop zone. And all these spaces in the same or less square footage are the same size, and all the flow and everything should work better. But notice what I put in here, a long, narrow, beautiful side yard that's desirable, and I would hire expert landscape architects to really lay this out, either as a concept for the buyers, show them what to do, or the home, or some builders, if they're really innovative, might think about offering landscaping. But you see, this is a completely different experience living here. Again, this is the actual project, all cars and trash cans, right? That's your living, that's your experience every day versus this comparable project built with the design I just showed you. Completely transformative by design. And then here's the back of that project that I showed you here. The back, the trash cans, the garage there, and the developer was smart enough to put trees that over time are really even making the back alley aesthetically pleasing. This is just by design, not by any extra cost that we get these outcomes. And again, here's a side yard that's a complete waste, won't be maintained. It's just a buffer between the next house next door. Here's the backyards again, have so little access and are so little privacy that they don't hardly get much use. So it's all wasted space, all the property except the house versus these kinds of opportunities. Even though it's long and narrow, look how beautiful the outdoor living can be if designed with landscaping and hardscaping. So again, you gotta make certain investments up front to realize all the benefits, both for you financially and for your buyers and for your reputation. Okay, let's jump to natural comfort by design. These are pretty good experiences to have in a house. Glare-free views, free heating and cooling, superior cozy comfort, natural light, natural cooling, natural fresh air, and resilience. How much would you spend for that? Would you spend zero? I would, but I think it's tens of thousands of dollars of value. So how do I get that by design? Well, we do it by optimizing the sun and the wind. And we think about things from the very beginning when we lay out the community. We don't wait till we get the lot and try to solve it. From the community planning, we optimize orientation, opportunities for solar shading once we have orientation or leverage. We integrate thermal mass, cool roofs, prevailing breeze, capture, and orientation. And it's a really missed opportunity to give up these free natural resources. Every site has access to the sun and wind. You can either throw them away or use them. So here's your choice. If you ignore them, you have the house on the right with the blinds down all the time. If you address them, you have beautiful glare-free views with daylight. And 98% of home builders, designers, and architects score natural light, the top home feature in 2022. I've been begging builders to consider this for 15 years. It's so, again, encouraging to see the surveys finally show, of course we want daylight. It's like no surprise. It edging out other usable outdoor area by 92%. So we still, now over 90% want the outdoor space, but give us some daylight. We all want natural light. So we go from this to this by design. It's what you do and how you integrate those key features I just showed you, and the wellness that Results is you get boosts in vitamin D, you ward off seasonal depression, you have better sleep, and you enhance productivity, all by research and advanced studies looking at different homes with and without daylight. And then isn't it nice to have a discount on your heating and cooling, a 25% discount because you, by design, capture natural resources. One California study looking at both coastal and inland locations ran the analytics and did the models and found 25% free natural heating and cooling just with south orientation. You throw in solar shading, you throw in some thermal mass, and pretty soon you get 33% or more free heating and cooling. And then cozy by design. I know thermal mass sometimes, let's say, may be more expensive than just a veneer floor, but you get 40% greater impact on perceived comfort with enhanced mean radiant surface temperatures made possible with thermal mass than with just ambient air temperature. Spaces when you always feel this. You probably aren't like me, a nerd, when you're walking in spaces looking at the design features, but every time I'm in a high thermal mass space, I'm always seeing the correlation to far superior cozy comfort that's natural. So again, really important. One other point, with solar design, you can overheat in the winter even just with the natural sunlight coming through. So it's really important to have thermal mass as a battery to store the heat that's coming through so it doesn't overheat, and then release it later at nighttime when there is no solar heat gain coming through. So we can completely ignore the sun and wind as we do over and over again on project after project in really hot climates with a lot of solar resources, and in cold climates as well. And then an outcome, this is Barstow, California. It's almost like a desert, 6 months a year over 90 degrees. And essentially, all you need to know that this building's failing is to look at the windows, and it's failing by design. Every window blind is closed during the day. If I'm clear on this, the reason we have a window in the first place is for 3 reasons. It is for daylight, fresh air, and a view. And now we get none of those purposes from the window if we don't design for orientation and shading and so forth. And it's so simple to do. And here's another example of Orlando. I drive through streets of Orlando and I see this all the time. The blinds are drawn completely all day long on all the homes. So it's very simple. You just east-west streets if your home's going to have windows on the north-south. If you're going to do a design like I showed you earlier, where the side yard is your main open space, then you do want north-south streets. So you have to, again, by design, integrate your planning to get the best orientation. And then if your front yard faces south, then a good way to get the sunlight in the back might be a sawtooth design that gets all the free solar heating in the winter, all the way through the space, and all the sun shading with an overhang in the summer that you want to block unwanted heat gain. And again, very simple to do, as you see an example on the right. And then if you have a south-facing backyard, your design may have a higher profile there, so you have more daylight going deeper into the space, and then you can use trellises to create the solar shading that you need along with the roof overhang. So we have all the design concepts, 2-story designs. We can just come up with solutions for that as well that work with the same tools to provide free heating and cooling and more daylight and more comfort. So here's a friend of mine, Paul Torsolini, works with the National Renewable Energy Lab. Let me use these pictures in my book, but his house, all the living's on the 2nd floor. On the left is winter, all the light, all the heating, all the comfort coming through. Then you shift to the summer, all the unwanted solar heat gain completely blocked. Plus his wall surface temperature might be 20, 30 degrees cooler than if the sun was hitting it. So you have less higher mean radiant temperatures coming through the wall because of that shading. So better comfort. So just better by design. So again, this seminar, I'm using a lot of personal projects just to show you that this works in real life. This is another client. This is the subdivision layout they had. You see south is facing down, and 100% of the units were facing east-west. 0% of the units optimized for natural comfort. So you have 29 units in a little playground in the corner, 85% of glazing oriented east-west. Just a huge opportunity to do better. So the alternative I provided was this layout on the right. Now I get actually more units from 29 to 33, and almost 3/4 of the units are optimized for natural comfort. And I even will sometimes do things like change out a playground because it's running a really busy street and noise and so forth with pickleball courts, just because I think it would add more value to the developer to offer their buyers. So, but again, just trying to, at the beginning, before in perpetuity, you're locked out of a lifetime of far superior living experiences. Get it right in the planning process. So again, sticking some projects I worked on. This is again this is that duplex unit, 85% of windows north and south. And this is the layout for the homes. So what you see is that the 190 lots here, uh, only 37% were facing north south, and there's no open spaces in this subdivision plan. So I just again recommended how it could be revised with now 72% of the units facing north-south, double the units north-south with 85% of glazing again on the front and back of the home. Plus I put a little dog park here and a recreational park here, and I'll give up 2 units for that because I can sell the value. And I think a much higher revenue for the builder, a better reputation, all the homes living better. You know, we can just start being thoughtful about in the planning stage how we can now design better homes for each lot. So it's just really important by design to get this right. And then fresh air can be really important. I lived in Sacramento working for the California Energy Commission for almost 14 years, and it was bankable every night, clockwork. You had this cool Delta breezes coming in from the Grizzly Bay, from San Francisco through into the valley, and you had 55-degree air conditioning just for the taking. Just open the windows and let it flow through the house. Amazing what an asset that is, you know, up and down California. And a lot of markets in tropical climates where breezes can provide tremendous cooling. So you know you have these strategies: minimal, good, better, best. The best is cross ventilation. You know, 2 openings in opposite walls. Better is 2 openings in adjacent walls. Good, 2 openings separated if all you have is 1 wall exposed. And the least fresh air you get is just 1 opening. So you know how to do this. And by far, this is best. You go to Charleston, South Carolina, and it's a revolutionary era city. So much of the historic area preserved, and you see this incredible design just to capture breezes. It's oriented to the breezes coming off the ocean. Now you want a long, narrow shape because when these homes were built, there was no mechanical cooling. So you wanted as much cross ventilation as you could possibly get. So a long, narrow home with all the cross ventilation and tall windows. And it was incredibly effective natural cooling. Of course, today, now everything is mechanical cooling, but there are long swing seasons in Charleston where the free cooling could supplant mechanical cooling by good design like this. Now, if you don't have cross ventilation possible, then you next bet is the apertures on adjacent walls. So by design, you can really optimize this strategy. You can use wing walls or use casement windows that open in the right direction, and you get dramatically different outcomes in terms of fresh air. Best, I'm not going to go through the details of this because it would take too much time, but look at the amount of air you capture with the best, good design layouts, and poor placement of the wing walls or casement window opening directions. So, and it doesn't cost you any more to have the casement window face left or right. And now your strategy at no extra cost has all this capture potential for fresh air. And if you only have windows on one wall available to you, again, your best thing is to separate them. And again, where you look at the casement window or wing wall has very substantial difference from best to good to poor. And again, it costs no more. Let's say casement windows is your strategy here. Having a casement windows left or right is completely a non-cost factor for you for a better user experience. And when you see great designs and the right design for a climate, again, tropical climate, capture a lot of natural free cooling, it looks beautiful because it's naturally embracing the resources available by design. Also by design, you can just specify roofing materials that work better for your climate. If you have a hot climate, you can reduce attic temperatures 40 degrees just by using a cool roof material. It could be asphalt shingles, or it could be other elastomeric coating, paint finishes on flat roofs. It could be any number of design choices you make. But that's a 40-degree savings with huge benefits, both in terms of comfort and energy costs. So you can look at Melbourne on the left, that's not optimized in a super hot climate from late spring to early fall. It's just brutal heat, versus Bermuda with a similar hot climate using white roofs. And the beauty of Bermuda to me, maybe just because I'm a nerd and I'm a geek, is when I see these roofs, it just enhances the beauty. I know it's working with nature. But you don't have to go like to white. You can use any conventional material can often come with a reflective coating to improve the cool roof performance. Okay, now optimization by design with better spaces. Key strategy with better spaces: get rid of waste. Why pay for any square foot that doesn't add value? And at today's retail cost per square foot, getting to $500, $600, $800, $900, $1,000, $1,500 a square foot, you don't want to pay for extra square feet. And so a good definition from Scott Sadam at True North, quality expert in the industry, is waste is any resource that does not add value in the eyes of the customer. I kind of like to build on Scott's good words here with or could add value at no additional or low cost. I think it's a real waste if you didn't make a design decision that doesn't cost any more, or in fact costs less and adds value. And getting rid of wasted space costs a lot less. So here's a design I put together, part of a project when I was in Sacramento. But the key thing I want to do, without going into too much detail, is to say, you can see when it's simple, only has 6 corners, but more importantly, in 1,400 square feet, by getting rid of every wasted square foot I can possibly do, and leveraging things like built-ins and storage, I get an amazing user experience in a very small amount of square feet. And I will submit the 1,400 square foot floor plan lives like 1,800. It has a really large amount of kitchen counters and island. It has an ample eating space, ample great room space. It has a really substantial master suite with walk-in closets, compartmentalized bathroom and 2 sinks, and nice private view to the back. The hall bath is compartmentalized as well, has full laundry. Bedrooms, by virtue of built-ins, even though they're small, live incredibly big. Either a desk work at home space or a drop zone with bench would go in the front and a private entry. This is an incredibly generous floor plan for 1,400 square feet. And if I'm saving 400 square feet of construction because it lives like 1,800 square feet, that's about $40,000 of savings at 100 square foot hard cost for a builder, let's say. That would be even amplified at the retail level. And I have a full front porch for community connection. So it's really important to realize that you've got to be like a almost militant about looking at where waste is and extracting as much as you can. So here's a builder we work with, who we love, Tim O'Brien. Homes is the biggest production builder in Wisconsin. And he came in with this project that we worked on to optimize him. Within the constraints of this way we work together, we just kind of try to get the floor plans really tightened up. So it really bothered us that the valuable real estate in this corner for view and daylight was used for a bathroom with no windows. So Lincoln's Outdoors, we wanted to get more rooms off the outdoors, including the kitchen, which was blocked by the dining room. Oop. And then the stair to the lower level was like a dark, long, narrow stair. It was death. It killed the value of the lower level. So we moved that over here, so it flowed off the upper level and was like a continual experience to the downstairs, and tremendous added value doing that. We moved the laundry from, it was in the, it was in the corner over here, as far from the bedrooms as it could be, to right next to the master bedroom, access through the closet or access through the hallway for these other bedrooms. We then had, the master bedroom was, you know, right when you need to go use a half bath as a guest, you walk right next to the master bath. So I thought that was a real significant privacy concern. So we got the half bath, much better located over here. We had the bathrooms in the master only had one sink, which is not, and no compartmentalization, and the hall bath had no compartmentalization. So we compartmentalized the hall bath. We got two sinks in the master, compartmentalized it with a room for the commode. We added a drop zone when you came in with benches and a walk-in closet. We had a much simpler kitchen than this L-shaped kitchen over here with just straight counters, much savings I'll talk about in a moment, and an extended kitchen area and a pantry, all in less square footage. And the water heater was just down over here somewhere. And in the basement, we moved it right here central to all these bathrooms, and we saved about $1,000 of plumbing. And then we have just a much simpler footprint from 12 corners to 8 corners, and a much better entry. Instead of walking down this narrow, long space, we recessed the garage, so you come in at much less narrow tunnel kind of effect coming in the front door. Similarly, in the lower level, we did about a dozen or 15 different improvements. But the key thing is when we do these kinds of design optimization improvements, we send the builder back with a spreadsheet and say, do the calculations, figure out how much value you added and how much cost you saved. And so this is like a kind of an empirical check that when we promise tens of thousands of dollars cost advantage, just optimizing design, this project realized 72,000 of added value and $46,000 of cost savings for a net almost $120,000 cost advantage by the builder's own spreadsheet calculations using the tool we gave them. So these are, now this is by design, huge cost saving opportunity. And I'll give you another example, again, working with clients. This was a project where it was 2 apartments. You have a garage on the right to one unit, they come in, walk up some stairs and go upstairs to this level. And then you go up these stairs and you go to this level for the front unit. For the back unit, you come in this garage, you go all the way down here up these stairs to this level here. And then you have the upper level here to this stair, and you have this powder room off the kitchen. And then you come up the stairs from here to the upper level with a single bathroom and a laundry. So that's the way it laid out. So this plan problems for number one was here, plan one was you had 100 feet from the garage to the bedroom to come home and change your clothes. You come out of the car, go up these stairs, then you go up these stairs to this stair, and then you get up these stairs and finally get to the bedroom. So it was like 120 feet. It was a long kind of inconvenient user experience just to get home and get out of your clothes. There was no drop zone when you came in. The kitchen circulation was really bad with this kitchen refrigerator, really way too close to the counter. No room for a dining table upstairs in this plan one. It just, this is, this was shown on the plan, but there's no such thing as what was drawn. And it's right conflicting with the powder room, no privacy for the powder room, and there's no storage on this floor plan, the main level. In plan two, we come up here, you have a lot of wasted space here that you have nothing to do with because it's all flow. The kitchen island's too close to this refrigerator. Bedroom number two has an awkward location right next to the stair. and there's no dresser space in bedroom number 2. So how do we change by design and fix all these problems? So instead of coming in like this, all the way down this stair, we move the stair all the way up here, way from here to about here. So now you come in and it's a much less space, and those bump outs we converted to drop zones. So when you came in, you had a place to put your keys, your umbrellas, your hats, uh, maybe a bench to sit down, all those kinds of things. Then when you come up on plan number 1, you come up here instead of like this. Now you come up, and the secret sauce is moving the stair from this direction to coming up right from here. So you come up the stair and you can go up the stair right away. That left us private entry to a half bath over here and storage under the stairs that was accessible now for a closet over here. And because there's no door here for powder room, we can move the table here and have flow. And you didn't have to walk in front of the TV to get to the stairs. You come right here to the stairs. This space is completely contained unto itself, the great room space and the TV. All by design, tremendously improve this unit number 1. Plan 2, now you come up. What we did was, instead of coming up in a wasted space, we used the space to create privacy for the powder room, a much larger kitchen, and all the space here that was a 2-story wasted space for the stairway, we grabbed. So this great room got like 15% bigger. It's just incredible, just using the same space, how much more value by design could be added. And then upstairs, the big thing was now you come up this side, we flipped the floor plan, so you come up and the bedrooms on this side. The big thing we did on the upstairs is you move the furniture layout, so you can now get a dresser in this room, move the door down so it's not next to the steps. Just simple, basic things. There should be no waste. Another waste I hate is attic volume that's not being used. And so our normal construction, we have an attic and it's wasted volume. And in the western and southwest and south central region, we'll stick the HVAC and ductwork up there, which is abysmal for performance and comfort and for efficiency. And the key thing when we have a vented attic, we have no topside barrier, so the top surface of the ceiling, so the ceiling next to it tends to get hotter. So this is just a bad design all around. To go to an unvented attic, let's say with SIPs or with spray foam, it's faster, it's quicker to build, it's more conditioned space, more efficient, more comfort. It's much, much stronger for in terms of shear strength, and much more resilient to impact and fire, because now I don't have vent screens for embers that get in from soffit vents, from gable vents, from ridge vents. And the cost savings, I don't need to build those ridge vents or soffit vents or gable vents. I don't need to build I don't need to for the attic to install air barriers and air sealing. And it's just much faster, so I save cycle time. So this is a huge benefit. And what happens is I go from this kind of space with all the attics and ducts and wasted space to this. Let's say if I did SIPs, that could be used for space like this. So how much value does that create by leveraging and by design using all the volume that we're building? Not just giving it away as a wasted volume or just venting. That's insane to me. So I'm a big advocate for non-vented attics. And even it can be even part of a bigger strategy for real big cost savings. If I'm building in a cold climate and have a basement, I can offset the basement with a shallow frost protected footing and switch an attic that has, again, let's say SIPs or spray foam at the underside. If I'm using SIPs, I'm going to use Cape Cod configuration because I can use a single ridge beam and get that nice architectural look and all that extra volume. So I have savings on the foundation with a frost protected footing. I don't have to build a basement with egress windows and all the costs associated with that. I have no attic air barriers and ceilings and baffles at the eaves. I have no venting. Again, gable, soffit, ridge. All the wall framing that we build on each end now is useful for creating conditioned space. So it's like free wall framing that we're leveraging. And we have less waste, less time. And the added value of a second floor versus a lower level It might be worth another retail $100 a square foot, so it may be gaining $20,000, $30,000 in market value, and all the resilience, wildfire protection, tornado, hurricane protection. This is a lot of cost advantage that we're giving up if we don't think through design optimization on the front end. Better spaces also by minimizing clutter. Clutter creates a lot of psychological effects. It's stress and increased cortisol levels that can become chronic, inability to focus that kills productivity. So clutter is just a huge experience killer in homes. And we have this reality that, um, you know, built-ins are a way to mitigate clutter and aligned with so many factors that are changing their value. One, we have a sharing economy where buyers don't want to own stuff. So built-ins mitigates the need for them to buy lots and lots of furniture. And the insanity of moving. The cost often to move a lot of furniture exceeds the value of the furniture itself. And it can be transformative in terms of the perception of space. Spaces live 20 to 30% bigger when you have built-ins that optimize all, much like a boat does. A small boat creates a lot of perception of space with built-ins, so small, cabin spaces just seem so much bigger and lower cost. If we're building less square footage because the space lives bigger, again, just like with right sizing, we save all those hard costs for building square footage we don't need. And with lots of options for built-ins, window seats, entertainment centers, shelving, desks, dressers, closet storage, hutches, drop zones, mudroom storage, garage storage. So all that. And the concept of built-ins, just by example, on the left, you have a hutch, let's say, that creates dead space on the left, dead space on the right, and often unused space above. And because it's against the wall, you have this air gap that's kind of awkward, sometimes blocking outlets and place that collects dust. It's just so suboptimized. In contrast, when I have a built-in hutch on the right, I have floor to ceiling space being used, I have like 4x, 3x more storage, and I have places for shelving, for storage or displays. It's like, again, 3, 4, 5x more value in that same square footage with the built-in, plus the perception it's bigger because of all the reduced clutter, and I can do reduced size rooms to offset the cost of the built-ins. This room also, notice, used a built-in window seat for more storage and more value. So by example, again, how we enhance livability, you have a bedroom on the left with no built-ins, and the built-ins on the right by design can double the value of that room in less space. And here's an office space without a built-in, and with built-ins by design, again, I can double the value of that space. And so it's incredible how that shows up on the bottom line for the builder. Here's an example. The space below a stair is often wasted space. The best possible use you usually see for most times is just it's a storage space below the stairs. And what we can do is convert that space by design with built-ins into work at home space and add 5, 10% more value to the home. Because now this home has a work at home center. Just by transforming the wasted space or low value space into high value space. And if you don't know, and there are other options, you can use it, you can transform a low value closet to a really much more high design storage and display unit. So we got to look at our opportunities to get the most from every square footage. Okay, next option is simple. Simple is a new must-have. Who knew over 80% of the nearly 1,700 Americans between the ages of 21 and 75 wanted homes that were more simply designed. So this is another Harris poll outcome that aligns with other studies I've seen. So the simple is really powerful. So I can have a recessed porch in one design in 12 feet across 16 feet and down 12 feet. And now I have to build these two 12-foot walls that I don't have to build with a simple shape design. I give up 200 square feet. I'm building 12 linear feet of wall and foundation, and it's extra cost for less square footage, almost $3,000 of extra cost to build the extra complicated with zero benefit. I can use and repurpose that money for a much nicer uh, front porch or rear porch that enhances the architecture, is a much better solution and lives better. Here's again that design I showed you earlier, that 1,400 square foot simple design. It has 6 corners because I recessed the bathroom for a little privacy from the backyard open space. I could have done 4 corners very easily. And here's one with 15 corners, another 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2.5, 3 bath design. So just saving the corners is almost $14,000 benefit, just going simple. So simple is really your friend. I mentioned before I explained why I don't like L-shaped kitchens. Here, it's because you wind up with a dead corner. And more and more I'm saying the builder is just leaving it dead. So a dead corner cabinet below and a dead upper cabinet above that you don't have access to. And so it's wasted space for storage. And then it's really hard to work with that space because it's in a corner. It's hard to position yourself comfortably. Get rid of the corners. And that way you don't need a seam in the counter. So that's other cost savings for the counter that you're installing. So just straight counters across. So I have just as much counter space in this design, more pantry storage, less cost, better by going simple. Again, simple by design applies to roofs as well. But it also applies to making sure we pick the best roof for protection. You know, roofs have a basic function, which is to shed weather. And which of these roof designs sheds weather the best? And the hip roof by far does. It sheds wind, it sheds rain and snow, it is more impact resistant, it's just a better roof. Now, I don't mind using a gable roof if the design really if it helps the design, but you should be in this space more and more as I see interest in flat roofs and modern architecture. I go crazy. This is the least effective way to shed weather. And so it protects, this is better protection from bulk moisture, wind, wildfire, earthquakes, severe winter weather, and also durability with longer lifespans. The shortest lifespan of all these roofs is a flat roof. So the simple by design, this is crazy. This is like insane what you have to go through when you replace this roof. And the way it drains water from the roof is incredibly complicated, has some really heavy concentration zones where way too much water is coming into one corner, like right here. And right here, the water is draining against the sidewall, and just a crazy number of things happen. Here's a Cape Cod design I mentioned earlier, I like a lot. Simple, great drainage, easy to build. Okay, user experience by design, low maintenance. There are 4 key damage functions I speak to. Most people speak to 3, the freeze-thaw cycle, UV light, degradation, and corrosion. But I think pest is another damage function. Florida alone, there's $1 billion of pest repairs for termites every year. It's $1 billion event every year in Florida. So I think we got to really address these effectively. So freeze thaw, you should know that tile roofs are not your friend in cold climates. Moisture that can wick up when snow melts on these roofs in the winter will freeze at night and create stress that can crack the tiles. Metal or asphalt shingles, metal roofs or asphalt shingles are much better for cold climates. Flat roofs, we mentioned just before, not your friend. For the same reason, as the snow melts and freezes, it puts more freeze thaw stress on all the flashing connections and weak points in the flat roof that really undermine its longevity. So your slope shingle roof or metal roof is your friend in terms of roof configuration. And then wood is not a good material in really hot climates where the sun beats on it. That's why stucco is such a beautiful design in the Southwest, and it's kind of ubiquitous. Let's say in Santa Fe, see Adobe design everywhere. It's such a perfect material for better durability by design. And then in hot, humid climates where near saltwater conditions, you got tremendous corrosion, damage function exposure. So metal details, metal windows, metal railings, and so forth are going to really be high maintenance. So non-metallic railings and details and windows are your best bet. And lastly, for pest resistance, wood frame homes, you're going to know, going to lock in your buyer with a lifetime of termite control and maintenance. And you can get rid of that with non-wood or borate treated wood design choices for your homes. And then non-integrated solar is just attached to a roof, often with 30, 40 roof penetrations. Remember, we just said roof has a basic function. Its primary function to shed weather. Once I stick 30, 40 roof penetrations, now I'm relying on all those 30, 40 flashing details to be perfect to avoid really costly damage. So if you do this, you got to be really militant about those details. Or you can use roofing choice by designs that already have a built-in way to install solar in a kind of a standing seam roof. There are ways just you don't need to penetrate the roof except for the conduit coming in and out of the attic. So again, by design, you could build more low maintenance homes. And of course, if you really want to get optimized, just bifurcate the solar where you can as a porch from the house roof is a great way to go. It will be available in limited circumstances, but it's a great choice where you can integrate it into your design. One, it looks better. Two, than having solar as part of a roof. Two, it allows light to come through. And three, it saves tremendous cost. About $3,000 lower cost, I estimate, because I don't need the roof sheathing. I don't need the roof underlayment. I don't need the roofing material because it's just the solar system on the framing. So that's about $3,000 of savings plus no mounting rack. When that roof has to be replaced, I do not have to pull the solar system. That will save me $6,000, $8,000 of cost to remove and reinstall the solar to replace an old roof. It's a better user experience because of the appearance, the daylight, and it produces more electricity. Because this underside's cool compared to the very hot temperatures that accrue in a tight space below or between the collector and the roof, it'll be much cooler temperature. You'll get about a few percent more output from your solar system, some more electricity and less risk. You live without worrying about those roof penetrations, all by design. So my final word here, we covered a lot of options and ways to go, is to manage home buyer uncertainty by delivering a better user experience by design. You always come out ahead. I hope this makes sense. And Mike, we can open up to any questions.
Thank you, Sam. Much appreciated there. I'm going to put out the call to everyone to send in their questions. And we do want to thank everyone for joining us today on this webinar. Um, you know, every time that I see some of those slides about the commercial development and the way to design that, I get so frustrated, Sam, because I see commercial development in my community, and you didn't take a picture of where I live, but it very well could be. That very car centric. Hey, let's give everybody a parking lot. Um, and make sure that they've got plenty of spaces and drive-throughs and so on and so forth. And they put these outbuildings, and there's so much paved space that you've got to strain your eye to find a single tree. And I think to myself, I know there's a better way. We've talked about this for years now. There's a better way to do this, and I just keep counting the days until it sinks in here in the Midwest that, oh, hey, we can build this to be more pedestrian friendly or bike friendly. And the irony of it, in where I live, we have miles and miles of trails that the county uh, facilitates or manages. And there are some bike trails that run right by some of this commercial development, and yet we basically ask our bike riders, hey, hop off the trail, gamble with your life that you're going to get hit by a car and come visit these shopping places. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, it's a first cost problem. If you're only thinking first cost and not thinking optimized affordability and optimized value, you just don't get to the right answer.
Yeah.
So people just have to start realizing to invest in good design.
And the design with the view, design for the view, that to me um, has resonated so much because I've talked to some people who were not looking to build a home, but looking at existing homes on the marketplace. And I want to move, I want to buy a different house, and the interest level that you see that they have in a certain property, they don't even realize it. It's a subconscious thing, but the
Exactly.
view that that property has really makes a difference in whether they consider maybe putting an offer in on it or not.
And building on that, same thing. If your home's for sale and you have to keep all the blinds closed during the day because of glare when people are visiting, versus a home that has flooded with daylight, it's a direct value impact, both in terms of price you get and the time on the market you have to wait before you sell.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do not see any questions in from our audience today, but those of you who have been attendees of these events know you can always email me. We can get questions to Sam. Sam's email address is also on the screen there. You can email him directly. We very much appreciate everybody for joining us for these webinars. We really do. That does conclude the Housing 2.0 series for 2025. We want to thank everybody, not just for attending today, but throughout the entire year. This is the 10th one we did, I believe. And we really appreciate you being here with us. Thank you also to Panasonic Healthy Indoor Living Solutions for their generous sponsorship as well. Our very final webinar of 2025 will take place on Wednesday, December 10th. And sticking with tradition, it will be Sarah Gutterman's State of the Industry Address. That will start at our usual time of 2 p.m. Eastern, just like we started today. You can register for that webinar at greenbuildermedia.com. Until next time, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Stay safe, stay healthy, and take care, everyone.
Bye bye.